expansion. As of last week, New York City, with a population of more than 8 million people, has reported 42 murders this year. In that same time, Los Angeles, a city with just over 4 million people, has reported 39 homicides this year. And Indianapolis, a city of roughly 870,000 people, had reported 35 homicides. And as of tonight, that number has also grown to 39. It's a startling statistic, and those fighting violence in these neighborhoods hope it sends a strong message that something has to change. 3 homicides in 24 hours, the latest happening Friday afternoon on the near Northwest Side, where police are only saying a man was killed in an alley.
It's just a mess out here where killings are happening every day, and it shouldn't happen like this.
Leroy Smith doesn't need to turn on the news to hear about the rising homicides in Indianapolis. As a team lead for the 10-Point Coalition, he walks these streets himself. The area he covers, no stranger to violence.
We are out here and it's hard. It's getting more and more nerve-wracking and scarier for us to be out here. It's too much violence that is happening.
Smith spends his time at the Carriage House Apartments. 5 people have been killed here this month alone, including 4 young people killed in the same apartment.
It's steady happening, and we're just sitting back, shaking our heads, talking about it, but we're not getting out here and say, come here, young man, you're worth something. Pull your pants up, you're worth something.
Lori, we just found out this evening that Candace Walton, she has been charged with 2 counts of murder, arson, and theft by taking. Right now, we know that she is in a Kentucky jail, and she will be coming back to Central Georgia very soon. Investigators say 16-year-old Candace Louise Walton set the fire that struck her own home Thursday and may have killed 2 people.
What the mayor calls a horrible day in Milwaukee. The gunfire erupted this afternoon at the Molson Coors Beverage Company in Milwaukee.
Okay, confirmed active shooter. Shooter still at large.
Police responding to calls of an active shooter at the famed beverage company. Law enforcement officials say the gunman was recently fired. The mayor says there are multiple fatalities, including the shooter.
It is a horrible, horrible day for the employees here. It is a very rough day for anybody who is close to this situation.
With heavily armed tactical teams flooding the area, officers with long guns stormed buildings. Employees on lockdown told to hide anywhere they could, alerted of what police call a critical incident, as others nearby were ordered to shelter in place, including several schools.
Well, Sarah, the LAPD is investigating both of these shootings tonight, and one of the victims is an innocent child who was simply just out for an evening stroll. Yellow police tape roped off the 4100 block of Somerset Drive in Baldwin Village following a shooting, an attack that happened right outside Renata Wilkins' home. She asked us not to show her face.
And I heard the gunshots.
Police say a man in his 30s had been walking here with a woman while carrying a 6-year-old girl around 5 p.m. That's when another man walked up and shot the male victim and the child. The shooter ran off on foot.
I saw blood on the back of his shirt, and then I heard him scream, "Oh my God, my baby's been shot."
Yeah, it is a complicated scene here, so try to follow along with me. Police say it started out with a man standing in the middle of New York Avenue over here, shooting at a car that was heading westbound. Now, police say that car turned going the wrong way onto First Street, where it hit another car. And you heard from that Lyft driver earlier, as you mentioned, Delia, that car was also caught in the crossfire, as you mentioned. Now, when police showed up onto the scene to investigate and looked in that car that ended up turning down the wrong way onto First Street, they found 2 people suffering from gunshot wounds. Police said one had critical injuries, but he is now stable. The other had a non-life-threatening injury. And police said they also found another car with a victim with gunshot wounds at the Mobil gas station nearby. That victim is also stable, police said tonight. Now, they are still searching for that original shooter that was shooting at the car on New York Avenue. And earlier today, as you mentioned, Delia, police say that a teenage boy was shot to death in Shaw. Police say it was a little after 2 o'clock in the afternoon, a sunny day in D.C.'s Shaw neighborhood, when 2 boys under the age of 15 were shot. One of them died. The other is being treated for a non-life-threatening injury.
You know what's going on here. It's the same story that we keep seeing. It's young people resolving disputes with firearms. And then now we got a young kid who's lost his life.
Killer is in custody after a woman was stabbed to death and her mother injured. It happened around 9 this morning at an apartment on Los Angeles Avenue. Police say a woman waved down bystanders and told them her daughter had been stabbed.
The Skull Breaker Challenge, and 2 New Jersey students are now facing charges for doing it after seriously injuring another child. Ariel Rushef is here, and Ariel, this has some big consequences.
It sure does, Amy. It's yet another dangerous viral prank sweeping social media. The Skull Breaker Challenge already landing several kids in the hospital with serious injuries. Now a family from New Jersey is sharing their 13-year-old son's story to warn others.
Videos like this one may only be a few seconds, but the frightening aftermath can last much longer. The Skull Breaker Challenge is as dangerous as it sounds. 2 people fool an unsuspecting third into jumping into the air, kicking their feet right out from under them, all captured on video and shared on TikTok. After falling victim to the challenge, Stacy and Mark Shanker's son was rushed to the hospital.
My son ended up having a seizure with a traumatic brain injury and a concussion with loss of consciousness.
Now the 2 students who challenged the boy are facing assault charges.
If you do something and you make a mistake, it could ruin your life forever. It could ruin somebody else's life forever.
Authorities and doctors warning the challenge is putting those targeted at significant risk.
If you hit head first, you can have a skull fracture, a hematoma on the outside of the skull, or even bleeding within the brain.
The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he's calling for calm following days of sectarian violence between Hindus and Muslims that has killed at least 27 people. The unrest has been centred around Muslim majority neighbourhoods there in the northeast of Delhi, and there are reports that Muslim homes and shops are being deliberately targeted. The BBC's Rajini Vaidyanathan sent us this report.
Fear. As tensions remain high in Delhi. The national capital, a battleground. Violent clashes between Hindus and Muslims have rocked the city for days. Entire neighbourhoods ripped apart as mobs roam the streets. The riots have been centred in the northeast of the city, in largely Muslim neighbourhoods.
Fast food worker who police say shot a customer. Investigators say the worker is this person here, 24-year-old Jonte Robinson. It happened at a Checkers restaurant on Candler Road in Decatur. Daniel Wilkerson is there.
You can still see the order of food there and the bullet holes in the glass. Well, a mother claims her son was shot by a worker here. Her son will be okay, but her son's friend, however, was shot in the neck.
I just wanted to get up here and make sure my son was safe. That's all I could think about.
She was told by her son that the employee shot them after a mix-up in their orders. Apparently, her son and his friend were not happy about that order mix-up. There were words back and forth, and at some point, according to one of the alleged victims, that worker pulled out a gun on them, shot both of them, grazing one and shooting the other in the neck.
I just pray that the guy that got hit, when he left here, he was fighting for his life. He got shot in the neck, so I'm praying for him right now. And I'm thanking God that God spared my son. It was God's grace.
Now, when we spoke with the mother, she was waiting to see her son. Meanwhile, she has this message.
People, if you have kids, young kids, you know they have guns, you need to be asking questions. Why do you have this gun? We need to find out what's going on with our kids.